Welcome to She Defined, the podcast for smart, savvy women who are in search of more. I'm your host, Sharon Green. Today, I'm joined by Erika Cramer. Erika is a renowned confidence coach, also known as the Queen of Confidence, an inspirational speaker and a best-selling author. Despite experiencing profound loss from a very young age, she has transformed her story of trauma and adversity into a journey of healing and success, and she's helping other women to do the same. Her first book, Confidence Feels Like Shit, was released in 2020, and her new book, Becoming Magnetic, is out now. She also hosts a podcast called The Confidence Chronicles. Erika, welcome to She Defined.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here, Sharon. Thank you so much for having me.
So excited to have you here today. Now, I want to start this discussion with a bit about your backstory, just so that our listeners can get some context about who you are and where you've come from in terms of getting to this point on your journey. So you experienced loss and trauma at a very young age. Your mother was institutionalized after suffering with bipolar, which meant you were placed into foster care. Your father lived in another country when you were growing up, and your former husband died in a car accident, and then you joined the army and broke your back. I mean, that is a lot for one person to go through. Can you talk us through this series of events and how it impacted you?
Yeah. So massive impact. And it's so funny because today the work that I do, you would think, I literally should be homeless on the streets, addicted to drugs, in prison or dead. And that's where I thought my life was going. So growing up in Boston, Massachusetts, my mom was a single mother and she really struggled with bipolar disorder. As you said, she got it when she was 18 years old. And I'm 41 now. And I just said to my husband this morning, what if my mom was having like perimenopausal situation and like no one knew about this and it affected her way of being and her taking her meds or stopping her meds. And so she was kind of in this yo-yo of stopping her medication and then taking it and being fine. And when she stopped, she would physically beat me. And it was a really hectic upbringing. So foster care was where I was raised from 2 weeks old until I was 16. And at 16, I joined the military. They came to my high school cafeteria. And I knew I did really bad in school. I think I wasn't really interested in school. Now I have 2 boys and one of my boys does not care about school and the other one's very academic. But that plus being in such a rough kind of upbringing and in and out of homes meant that I didn't have the focus. I didn't have the mentorship. I was paying bills. I was doing money orders at 8 years old, like trying to make sure that my home life was okay. And really, I feel like that crazy roughness from school just had me not focused. And so I knew I wasn't going to go to college. I knew we couldn't afford it. And when the military came to my high school, I was like, maybe I should join the army. And it was a crazy experience because I went to boot camp during 9/11. So I was in boot camp and halfway through boot camp, Aaliyah passed away and I loved her. That was horrific. And then the towers got hit. And I was like, oh, none of us joined to go to war. Like we joined for college money. And so our country was then at war. So that was pretty hectic, but I think I was looking for some kind of system, some kind of discipline, some kind of structure. I didn't know this at the time, but it was so crazy that I was looking for structure. Growing up in foster care, there was sexual abuse, more physical abuse, and it was just a very wild time. When I was 7, my dad took me away from my mom on a trip to Puerto Rico. He kidnapped me. And later, 20 years later, we reunited and he was like, I rescued you. Like your mom almost killed you in an accident and she was mentally unstable. And so it's been so crazy to live my life. Like in my first book, I said my dad kidnapped me because he did. And then 20 years later, he comes to Australia. My mom's here, I'm here. And he tells me his part of the story and she tells me her part of the story. And it was like, whoa. So I don't say that anymore because he did. He was trying to support me. So it was a crazy upbringing. It created a very angry child who just felt like the world was against her. I was very much in my victim mindset, but in anger. So I used anger. And I think anger is a really good emotion because it puts you into action. And I moved into action. I was like, what can I do to get out of here? And so married my high school sweetheart. He joined the Marine Corps. I joined the Army and we went to the West Coast. So we were on the East Coast in Boston. We moved to California and he went to war. So I was like, we got married in secret. I was living on a base as like Mrs. Lopez. No one knew. It was hectic. Like no one knew we were married. And then when he came back from war, I, for whatever reason, Sharon, decided I felt guilty. I was like, I've lived my life and he's been at war, but I hadn't lived any life. I was living on a base waiting for my husband, and no one knew he was my husband. And so it was kind of a moment of, I guess, martyrdom, or like how women give. I didn't have kids at the time, but I was just like, I have to give to you. And so he came back and I was like, we should do what you want. What do you want to do now with your life? And he really wanted to go become a DJ and music producer. So we had moved from Boston to California, then California to Florida. So we did the whole like triangle across America. And in Florida is where I joined full-time in the Army, and he was going to school. And one night we went out with some friends. We had no money. We had no petrol, no gasoline in the car, but we're like, we can make it to this club and back. And that was the night that I used my full back for the last time. There was a stripping pole and we were jumping and dancing and just having so much fun. My back was bending backwards. And that night we got into a car accident, drinking and driving. I was in the back seat without a seatbelt. And I demanded they both put a seatbelt on as I like hovered in the middle, super drunk. And then at some point we all fell asleep in fifth gear. And this car was the Fast and the Furious car. So it was the car from Fast and the Furious 2. It goes 240 kilometers an hour without a chip. And we're like fanging it on a Florida freeway, which are the most craziest freeways in America, the most dangerous freeway in America we're on. And we smash into a ditch. The car flips. I fly out of the car. And then I land on the wing, break the wing, and I'm halfway in the van that we hit. So horrible spine injury, had to get fusion surgery, was in the hospital for 30 days, like attached to a morphine pump. And he miraculously was in a coma and 12 hours later was okay. And his friend had like a fractured rib. I don't know how the man had a fractured rib, but it was horrific. And it was like a wake up call. Like, what are you doing with your life in the military? Like, this is not who you're supposed to be. And so I decided to go to hair school. I decided to then step into performance. I really wanted to be an actress. I actually wanted to be J-Lo. I had the Lopez name, but nothing else. And I was like, I'm going to do modeling because that's a gateway to acting and performance. And I thought that that was my like wake up call. And I started going to auditions. I was modeling. I was in the military 9 to 5 in my full military suit. And on the weekends and at night, I went to hair school to try to transition out of the Army. So I had like plan A, plan B, plan C, all happening at once. And that year, unfortunately, my husband was driving on his own and he crashed and he passed away. And when that happened, I was like, I'm done. Like, God hates me. If there is a God, I must be cursed. This is ridiculous. It was too much, like from my traumatic upbringing to the sexual abuse to then all that, losing Geo, like it was too many things, a human can handle. And so I just numbed out for 3 to 5 years. Sharon, I really don't remember those 3 to 5 years much. It's a bit of a foggy kind of memory. But I went to a hair conference in Las Vegas and I met this man from Australia and he seemed cool. He was not cool, but he seemed cool. And I packed my life away. I sold everything I had, my car, my everything. And I moved to Australia. And I was in that relationship for 11 months. I moved from Miami to Mount Druitt. If anybody listening is from Sydney, you know how hilarious that is and tragic. He was not a nice man. I met another man who was not a nice man from Melbourne. And then I finally attracted an incredible man, Hamish, who was my personal trainer. And for the record, he would like for all of you to know that I was the sleazy client. It was not him. He was very professional. And we fell in love and we had babies and we got married and he introduced me to the work. And I spent the next 8 years healing and unraveling all the mess that was my life, and decided to step into this work in 2018. After a very long time of working on myself, I was like, I love this. I see what's possible. So many women need this, and decided to do it.
Yeah. I just want to take it back a step.
Yeah.
What was it like going through those series of events that just felt like life was working against you? I mean, understandably, that is way too much for a single person to go through and to take on.
Yeah.
I think you've mentioned that it led to some unhealthy behaviors and coping mechanisms, including dating toxic men, taking drugs. Did it just feel like you were spiraling? Like, what was going on in that time in your life where did it feel out of control? Can you talk to that at all?
Yeah. I think being in relationship with Giovanni, who was my husband at the time, we were young. We would drink and it would get very messy at the end of that night. Like, it would get angry. It would get very dramatic. The people that drink and fight and the police are called and, like all this crazy stuff. And I really believe that we were both traumatized. Like, we both had come from broken families, fathers that were not there. So we had stuff that we'd never dealt with. So we drank. And that's how we dealt with it. And then we would get loud and we would fight. And then the next day, oh, sorry, move on. So it was never dealt with, if that makes sense. And we didn't even know, I didn't know what the work was or anything like that. So that accessibility to therapy or coaching was never something growing up that I knew about, never mind could access. And then when he passed away, I just drank. I drank so much alcohol. And I knew he died drinking and driving the year before I almost died. But I literally would continue, unfortunately for me and someone else on the road. Thankfully, nothing ever happened. But I was just like in a self-loathing, like, God hates me, life sucks, I'm unlucky, super victim mindset, but also like a tad depressed, I believe. And so I was seeking validation. I got into a lot of relationships, as you said, when Gio passed away. Probably like 3 months after I got into a serious relationship, moved someone into my house. And I think I was trying to have companionship because I was raised on my own in foster care. I was abandoned. So I had this abandonment issue that like my mom left me, my dad left me, none of my family took me. I went into homes instead. I had family in the town. They never took me and they had kids. So I had this like deep-seated belief that no one wanted me and I wasn't worth fighting for or staying for. So I didn't know that at the time, obviously. But what that led to was drinking, I had zero confidence. Like confidence was never a word that I would use to identify as myself. I was angry, I was frustrated, and I just attracted people, friends, air quotes friends, relationships to model and mirror what I already felt about myself. So I would have that. And yeah, it was a very hectic time. And I don't really know how I dealt with it, if I'm honest. I think I was just very tunnel vision and I would just do what I needed to do to be safe in that moment. So if the partner in Melbourne wanted me to delete all my photos off Google, no matter how hard that was, I would sit there at 2 a.m. emailing photographers. If they wanted me to not tell anyone about my past, I would pretend that I had a great life and my mom and dad were still together. You know, no wearing red lipstick because that makes you not look good. I wouldn't wear red lipstick. I wouldn't even sneeze, Sharon. Like I would hold my sneeze in because it's such a loud, crazy sneeze. I was just like, who do I need to be? So it was a pretty horrific time. And I guess it taught me that who you are is not okay. Nobody loves you. You're not worth fighting for. You need to bend to please everyone else and you need to not be the way you are. And I didn't know who I was. And so drinking would have been one of the things, probably the most prevalent thing in my life that was not helping me, but it felt like I could escape.
Yeah. I mean, understandably, most people would probably end up in a similar position. So then you meet Hamish.
Yes.
Wonderful Hamish.
Oh, we love you, Hamish.
And he's really into self-development and self-improvement.
Yeah.
Was that kind of the catalyst for you getting onto a better pathway, I suppose?
Yeah, he was, I jokingly say in the book, in both books actually, I had to put Hamish in both books because he's amazing, that he was like Gandhi. And when I started learning about Gandhi's work, like be the change you wish to see, he wasn't like, people should be nice, people should be friendly, people should let me go in the car, people should say thank you. He would just do it. He would just be it. And I was just like watching him and I would mess up so many times, Sharon. I would be like, I'm going to be better. And then I would mess up and have to apologize. But there's Hamish, steady, unwavering, with love, with patience, being the work. And so when you see someone out in the world that's being it, you're like, wow, no matter the test. And so he was really, by his example, I got curious. And I'd be like, so tell me about this thing you're reading. Or what is this? What is meditation? What do you mean the universe? Like he was the one that taught me all the things. And so I wanted to get into it as opposed to feeling like I had to, because I wanted some of the peace that he had. And he just had this beautiful energy about him. And so he shared with me in a beautiful way. He didn't shove it down my throat like some of us do. He wasn't like, you should. He just was like, hey, here's this thing. It's on the table if you want it, on offer. And I got close and I got like really into it. And I think in those first 12 months, he was like, man, you passed me. Like you went hardcore, like super personal development junkie. And I think it inspired him to also meet me at that new level. And so we just from there grew and continued to do that work and still do the work. The work is not done.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like you've blossomed together.
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about confidence because this is what you're very well known for, and you've even written a book about it. I interviewed you a few years ago for She Defined, and we did a piece about confidence, and you described confidence as a practice, like it's something that you can learn and then iterate. Can you explain how you see confidence as a practice?
Yeah. So when we were looking at confidence, I think that when the business came up, I was thinking about what are the things that these people out in the world have that we all want as women? And the word confidence came to me, shower wisdom. I was like, oh, it's confidence. what is confidence? And I'm so glad I did, Sharon. I went really deep into this rabbit hole of confidence. Not everything else, just confidence. And in my research and finding what the most confident people, or air quotes, confident people in the world do, I found that there are certain steps that they take. There are certain beliefs and values that they live. And after 10 years of practicing it, I was like, it's a practice. It's like meditation. It's like yoga. You don't arrive at meditated. You can meditate. I have 2 kids, okay? I will meditate and I get up and I step on Nava's Lego and I'm like, like there goes my Zen. So I have to get back into the practice and there's no arriving. And so I noticed that there were certain things that we do when we're practicing confidence. And I started to test the steps. And then I did the keynote and then I wrote the book about it. And like anything, I feel like the more you practice it, the better you get at it. And the deeper you go into these steps. And it so much becomes a part of who you are, not something you're doing. When you don't know how to do it, you're doing it. But after doing it for some time, it's who you become. So then you're always in a practice and you know that it's going to feel hard. That's why the book is called Confidence Feels Like Shit. No one told me that confidence feels like shit. They were like, you should just be more confident. And if you were only more confident, then you would have the thing that you want. And I'm like, oh, that's it? And then I'm like, this feels terrible. Like, is this what confidence is? Like, I have to do a spiritual poo every 5 minutes. Like, I'm so nervous. I'm so scared. Like, my heart is racing. I'm sweating. Is this normal? And I'm like, oh, it is normal. And so I wanted to share with women. Especially that you're going to go through difficulty and discomfort, and that's a part of the practice and that's a part of the process. Keep going. And it does get easier, but when you're in a level up, it's still really hard and it's supposed to be. So yeah, I wanted to share that it's a practice we can all get into versus a summit that you reach or a place to get to.
Yeah, I think that's extremely encouraging because knowing that it is something you can build on and practice and get better at day by day, year by year is actually more realistic than just being, hey, I've arrived and I'm confident or it's something I'm never going to be able to achieve.
Yes,
so,
and that's what I wanted to kill. Like, don't say that. Like, I'm not confident. And then when we went into it, it's so funny, the first book doesn't have this, which makes me so sad. But you grow when you write a book and it's you frozen in time. And this version of me now, I talk a lot about the root of confidence and the definition. And I never put the definition in the book, the first book, but it is to trust yourself. So it comes from the Latin root word confidencia, which is trust. And in Spanish, we say confianza. Confianza literally means trust. There's no word for confidence in the Latin language. It's trust. So literally when you're like, I'm not confident, it's like, do you trust yourself? Where are you breaking your trust? And so the more we trust ourselves, the more we go, I'm uncomfortable, but I believe I'm going to do it. I don't know how the hell I'm going to do it, but I trust that I'll work it out because I always have. And that self-trust equals self-belief, which builds your self-confidence. And then you appear to be this confident person, but really you're doing really scary stuff that a lot of people are not willing to do. It's not that they can't, it's that they won't.
And so why do you think women lack confidence or sometimes lose confidence?
So many reasons. I think one of the main reasons that we've found through our research and working with women, and we ask them this question, and it comes down to, especially in Australia, which is interesting, is the worry about what other people think about them. They're looking silly. They're looking stupid. What will people think? What will people say? It is that fear of judgment of others. And when you don't know who you are and you allow yourself to be told by the world who you are because you're not willing to say, this is who I am and be criticized for it, then you go, I don't know who I am. You tell me who I am. You don't like me? What do you need me to do? You don't like that? I'll stop doing that. And so we bend and break and we're not sure of who to be. And so when the opportunity comes for true freedom, which is being who you are in the moment, because you're ever changing, who are you? I don't know who I am. I'm different today than I'll be in 6 months. And who I was a year ago is not who I am today. So if I don't know who I am and I'm always changing, how the hell do you have me figured out? And so like you're clinging onto a ghost version of me, but I'm allowing that version of me to define me because I care what you think. So the number one reason why I believe women don't step into practicing confidence is that we're frozen by the opinion of others. And sometimes the good opinion, our family, our friends, the people we love. What will they think? And so there's this fear of being outed or being alone or being judged. And in Australia, obviously we have Tall Puppy and it's more of that. It's just that expanded.
Yeah. And for women who really do lack that self-confidence, where do you begin with them? How can they start to build their confidence little by little?
Yeah, it'd be the same way as magnetism. It'd be the same way as how do you become happy in your life? How do you get what you want? I really want the listeners to do a stock take. it's a perfect time to do a stock take as well, right? So have a look at your life. What areas of your life are you not getting what you want? And you might look at your money, your relationships, your health, your wealth, your communication, your career or business, and go, what is going on in that area of my life? And I wouldn't say look at every area because you can't work on everything at once. And look at the biggest area, the one that messes with you the most. And when you determine what's going on for you in that space, I want to get a pay rise. I want to build my business. I want to find love. Many of us listening want to find love, and we're focusing on career, but really we need to focus on a partner because we're scared. And so I would write down, like, what area of my life do I want to really work on? And who do I need to become in order to get that result? Who do I need to become? And if you don't know, what am I currently doing that's keeping the result really far away? I'm second guessing. I'm questioning myself. I'm hanging around the wrong circles. And I would highly recommend to then get a coach and or a therapist and or a counselor, whatever feels good for you. But please don't think that you're going to do this by yourself. None of the stuff I've done, Sharon, I've done on my own. And I fully believe in paying someone who has reached the results and or can hold space for me to process the thing that's stopping me, from getting that result. So the work, do the work, get therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have to agree. I'm a true believer of getting the help when you need it and paying for it if you need to.
Heck yeah.
Why do you think it's so important for women to work on building their confidence? So I guess you touched on some of the outcomes or the possibilities that can happen when we do feel more confident, such as finding love or going after those career goals. Have you got some other examples of what it really looks like when you do step into your own confidence?
Yeah. Well, I think, again, in Australia, for example, one of the things that's happening in Melbourne is a lot of women are getting murdered. So there's a lot of domestic violence happening here, 1 in 3 women. There's a lot of self-doubt happening here. There's a lot of women who aren't using their voice. In the speaker circuit in Australia, we don't have many women on The Voice. There's like a gender stage pay gap. So like we're not getting on stage, we're not speaking up. I really believe that when we step into confidence, not only do we listen to our intuition and not make decisions based off of fear, which I believe will prevent us from getting into toxic relationships, staying in marriages where we're not happy or worse, we're getting hurt, whether it's financial abuse or physical abuse or verbal abuse. Like there's a stat that says confident people make $8,000 more a year than someone who lacks confidence.
Wow.
And I believe it's more. Dove did a study, and I love this study because I use this in my work so much. And it's like 90% of women opt out or cancel plans based off the way that they see themselves. So the way that they believe they are, their confidence in themselves is so low that they just don't show up to important life things. And I know I go to events and I see some tables are missing. A woman didn't come. She didn't know what to wear. She was worried about what people were going to think about her. And so when you do step into your confidence and you give it a crack, are you going to be the most confident person in the world? No. Are you going to give it a crack and give it a go and go for it and teach yourself that you can actually do hard things and that it felt uncomfortable and that that's exactly where you need to be? Yes. And so when we step into confidence, not only can we make more money, but we have more self-belief, we have more intuition. Someone like me, my mom dated this guy who sexually molested me when I was 9 years old. Why did she attract him? Because she lacked confidence. And he gave her the eyes and he knew that she was vulnerable. And she got with this person who she told me, I thought he was going to do something bad to you. I'm like, are you serious? And you bring him into our house? Like, Mom, like, thank goodness I do the work because that could have messed me up when she told me that at 30 years old. But I have a therapist, so I processed that. But literally you make decisions based out of fear when you lack confidence. And if you have children and you think you want your kids to be confident, they are absolutely not going to listen to what you say. They're going to model who they see you being. So confidence is important for us because we go for jobs. We leave relationships that aren't good for us. We attract amazing people into our lives. We empower and inspire those that are watching us. And people are watching you, whether you work in a company as a leader or you work as a coworker, people are watching you. And so it makes us more well-rounded. It makes us the ability to create the life that we want. And it gives us the self-trust that we can back ourselves no matter what's happening, especially when things aren't working out. That's when I think confidence matters. Not when everything's great, but when shit hits the fan. How are you now? And when you have confidence in your backpack, you have compound confidence, you've proven to yourself that you can do hard things and that you'll overcome it, you have evidence, you become unstoppable.
Yeah. I want to talk about magnetism now.
Yeah.
Your new book, Becoming Magnetic, has recently been published. What is magnetism and how do you define it?
So there's quite a lot in the book around what magnetism is. And I've been asked this a few times. I really believe that when I think about magnetism, I think about connection for me. And how I define it in the book is you walk into a room and you can feel the pull. You can feel when you meet someone, if you're attracted and you want to lean in and go, oh, wow, this person's interesting. Their energy is amazing. Or when you want to lean out and you're like, oh, no, thank you. And so I believe that magnetism is that magnetic pull, like that pull that you give, that essence, that presence, the vibe that attracts the tribe, that kind of signals off of you that people can feel. And when I look at magnetism in this book, it's about the connection with other people. And so it's a skill set that we all have. It's something that's inside of all of us. Some of us have it turned off. Some of us have buried it. Others are really using it consciously and some unconsciously. But it's a very beautiful thing that I believe all of us can feel when we're tapped into our own energy and magnetism.
Mm. And in the book, you talk about stepping into self-mastery as the first step to becoming magnetic.
Yes.
Can you explain what that means and why self-mastery is crucial to unlocking magnetism?
Yes. Okay. So there are 5 phases of magnetism, and phase 1 is self-mastery. And so self-mastery entails 3 steps in self-mastery. So part 1 is self-awareness. So it's important that we're aware of what's going on. Step 2 is self-reflection. So we reflect back on what's happening and what we did and what we created. And step 3, which women especially are not the best at, is self-acceptance. And that's where your empathy and compassion for yourself comes in. And so self-mastery entails of all 3 of those. And when you step into self-mastery, which is hard to do, and there's a quote at the beginning of that chapter that's like, you will never master yourself, but if you always are in the pursuit of self-mastery, you'll be in the right place. But you can never master yourself because you're ever changing, growing, and evolving. But when you are aware of what's going on and what you want to change and how you're attracting, because obviously magnetism is like a magnet. You attract things and you repel stuff. So if you want more money, what are you currently attracting? You have to become aware of who you're being and your energy. And when I say energy, I mean literally your energy, not like spiritual energy, because like I would love to break down some of the vague concepts. But you're aware of your energy and the energy you bring into a space. And then you can reflect, ooh, who am I being? Do I want that result? And then when you can accept yourself fully, you step into self-mastery. And self-mastery is important because it's all about doing the work. And I think a lot of us hear this out in the world, like, do the work. I'm doing the work. Do the work. It's like, what does that actually mean? And so in this chapter, we break down why you need to master yourself, how hard it is to master yourself, and that you are the core of everything. We bypass the self. We're like, I want more money. I want love. If I do that, then I'll have that. I'm like, hold on a minute. Who are you? What are you about? If you were a tuning fork, have we tuned you? Have we shifted your frequency because you're going to attract at the frequency that you are, at the vibe that you are, at the mood that you are. If you're in a crappy mood and you have no energy, you're going to attract, But if you're like, yeah, it's like, oh, things are going to attract and come to you. So we start with the self. And I think this is the area that the spiritual community bypasses. And we're like, I'm just going to chant mantras, love and light. And it's like, you don't love yourself. You haven't done the work. All that trauma that you buried is messing with you. And you can't mantra yourself out of that. So self-mastery is like, look in the mirror and face the truth.
And I imagine that takes a lot of work
to
get to that point.
Yep.
Now, you've always preached the importance of living in alignment with your values. How does defining your values help to enhance magnetism?
Oh, so self-mastery is, who am I? How am I? What do I desire? Step 2, phase 2, which is defining your values, is your true north. So what do I stand for? Once you clear and like remodel the house and do the work and you go, oh, I'm not that. This is who I am. I need to work on that. I'm working on this. Amazing. Now we move to phase 2, which is defining your values. So how I like to look at this is, what do you stand for? What's important to you? You wouldn't believe, and maybe you would believe, Sharon, how many women don't know what they stand for, don't know what's important to them. So what happens? We end up taking on our values of our grandmother or our mother or our culture or society or the values of what the Instagram influencers say we should be doing. And we don't know thyself. And so when you define your values, you go, no. What's truly important to me is this. And if you want to know what's truly important to you, look at your calendar. Look at the way you live. Time block your life. You'll see what's important to you is what you spend time on and what you will dig deeper into daily. What's important to me is my family, my business, my mission. That's all I do. You will never see me like at a social gathering, barely ever, because that's not important to me. right now in this phase. And so when you live your values and you understand your values, then you've tuned your compass to know where you want to go. And it's important because how can you attract what you want if you don't know who you are and you don't know what you want?
Or what you stand for.
Heck yeah. You can be careful out there.
And you made such a good point. Sometimes we take on the values of other people, such as the values that our parents had or our grandparents had or an influencer we look up to. So is it important then to always be reassessing? And can you change your values depending on your different life phases potentially?
I hope you do. Yeah, I think I said to you before we started recording, the book is very practical. So there's a lot of loving slaps in there to encourage you. And then there's how to. So in the book, I give me and Hamish's personal values in-depth exercise. And we do it every 6 months. If something crazy happens in our life, like someone gets sick or someone passes away or something happens overseas with my mom, we're like, we need to talk about what's important because life will test you, right? And so I would say every 6 months you do your values and you understand what's important for you when you bring a new baby into your life, when you get married, when you move. These are all things that shift and change your life. So 100% your values change and you will change as they change. And it's important not only in your life, but in your personal life, but in your relationship, with your family, with your career. So many of us work at companies that don't understand and they don't value what you value. And then you're like, I hate this place. And it's like, yeah, because you're misaligned. And so 100% they're going to change. And I highly recommend that you look at them every 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about magnetism, does this sort of tie into the idea that shedding old stories and limiting beliefs needs to happen in order to become magnetic? So what's a practical way that women can begin to let go of their past so that they can evolve?
Yeah. So yeah, that would be our self-mastery phase. So in that whole phase, it's a big one, as you can imagine. And we talk a lot about radical responsibility there. And again, if you're someone like me, first of all, I didn't know what the work was. I didn't have the financial abundance to understand that I could go see a therapist because it wouldn't have been cheap for me and my mom. I definitely needed therapy and I had therapy when I was a kid. But as an adult, I didn't feel like there was anything wrong until I saw things showing up for me in my life. So as things pop up that you go, ooh, that's not what I want, how great. It's evidence that that is an area that you need to work on. And so one of the things that I give in the book is journaling practice. Now, I want to say I'm not a Dear Diary journaling person. I am a where's the Kmart receipt at the red light journaling person. What do we have? Toilet paper and a lip, brush. That's whatever you need to do. But basically getting what's in your mind out on paper. Because I think what we do as humans, not only women, is that whatever we think we are what we think. We think we are the thoughts. And so if we don't literally take our thoughts and put them on paper, or even on your phone, and we see that our thoughts are not us, then we can almost like disassociate yourself from the thing that you're thinking. Then you go, oh, I'm not enough. I'm thinking I'm not enough. Where's that come from? Am I the only person with that thought? Where did it come from? How often do I think that? When I'm around my parents, I think this. Interesting. When I'm around this group of women, I feel this. Cool. So in that first self-mastery area, I give a practice of journaling and I walk them through what I do and something that's super easy and tangible. There's some really hard-hitting questions in the book as well. So even in the audiobook, we did a little PDF because I was like, I want everyone to get these questions because they are like uppercuts. And when you get into doing the questions and you start asking yourself these things, you start to understand yourself a little bit more. And then you can decide as the reader, do I want to go see a therapist? I will tell you now, getting good therapy is hard. I'm getting my psychotherapy degree right now. And I'm like, gosh, the kids I'm in school with, I'm like, you're going to be a therapist. You need to fix all that shit. They're scared to go into their own stuff. So find a really good therapist. It's not easy, but bad therapy is the worst. It might be coaching. You might just get a mentor or a couples therapist or a counselor. But to think that we have all of this stuff from our past, which all of us do, our young childhood does impact and influence the way we are. 100% it does. And so if we think that, oh, Erika, I haven't been kidnapped. I haven't had sexual abuse. My husband hasn't died. So what? If your mother didn't look at you when you were 4 years old and you were like, Mom, I need you. And she was like, 1 second, honey. Dr. Gabor Mate, who I had the pleasure of studying with, will say that alone can mess you up for your whole life because your needs weren't met as a child and you make it mean things. If you got bullied on the playground, if somebody made fun of your weight, if your parents divorced when you were a child, that is enough for you to be having all kinds of things as a grown-up. So I think that we don't accept ourselves, we don't reflect enough, and we're not aware that these things are bothering us. So when we step into self-awareness and we know what we think on a daily basis, then we can start to, it's like stepping on the scale. How much do you weigh? I want to lose 5 kilos. If you won't get on the scale, my love, as hard as it may be, you will never know if you lost 5. And so this is about getting on the scale and being real with yourself and then unraveling and calling in the help you need, whatever that is. For some people, it's shamanic healing. For some people, it's Reiki, whatever floats your boat. But you need to do the work, and don't think that you can do it by yourself, because it got you to this point, and to get to the next level, you're going to need support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These days, many women feel the pressure to hustle for approval or to feel constant need to seek validation. How does becoming magnetic help women to stop chasing and start attracting?
Yeah. Ooh, that sounds so sexy. Stop
Juicy
chasing.
question.
I know. Stop chasing, start attracting. Well, I think that one of the things and I will harp on this, but when you move through the phases, and it's just like confidence feels like shit. Just so happened that we have 5 phases. That wasn't on purpose. But in becoming magnetic, there are 5 phases. And as you move through the 5, not skip part 1, okay? As you move through the 5, you start to notice that you let go of the limiting beliefs. You start to notice that you want certain things. You start to, in phase 3, it's your alter ego. You create who you want to be, and you start practicing the future self now. So you act as her. And so acting as her means the world responds. Listen, the world will respond to who you're being. If you're being timid, if you're being apologetic, if you're being shy, if you're being people-pleasing, the world will respond to that. If you have 0 energy and you're flatlining, the world will respond to that. So whoever you're being, you're going to get her results. So if you want different results, you have to be someone else. And so in the book, we talk about how you can let go, almost like take off the outfit of the person you don't want to be anymore and put on the new suit, the hat, the nails, whatever it is, and walk around life as that new version of you, who, by the way, is the future you, or AKA your higher self. And when you act as her, and this is not fake it till you make it, this is you really figuring out who she is, tapping into her and doing what she does, you're going to get her results. The world will respond differently to you when you are different. And so it literally, if you want to attract something, we talk in the book about attention versus connection. And like attention seeking is like, look at me, like my post, look at me. It's like glitter. You're like, oh, that's so cool, but it doesn't keep you enough. And then when you connect with someone, that's another layer. So yes, I want you to listen to my podcast. Yes, I want you to go to my Instagram. But then when you're there, what am I going to give you? I want some essence. I want some presence. I want some depth. And hopefully we're all giving the depth. And the depth is what sustains people and keeps them. And that is not validation seeking. That is because you don't see yourself like me when I was a kid, and you haven't worked on that. And so you're using tools to try to get people to like you. And magnetism is not about people liking you, right? And so when you utilize things like validation so that you feel better about yourself, it's manipulation. And it's actually because of a lack. It's not. So you're attracting from lack, which is scarcity mindset, versus attracting from I'm full already. My cup is full. I'm pouring onto you. And when my cup is full, I get more. When my cup is empty and I'm like, please fill my cup, people just, it like repels. It repels the right things. And it attracts the things that we don't actually need and want, like bad relationships and people from Mount Druitt. Anyway, that boyfriend. By the way, I love Mount Druitt. Shout out to anybody in Penrith listening, but that was not a good place for me to be. And that guy wasn't good. And it was because I was empty and I was seeking for someone to fill me, which is not going to help us.
Yeah. That's such a good distinction between, attracting the attention, which is not fulfilling. It's fleeting, in fact. I mean, how many of us go on social media and put up a post and then hope to get all the likes and the comments, but then it's gone within 24 hours. But then we want more of that because we're trying to seek that validation. So we are living in an environment these days where it is kind of hard to be fighting against it because these things are happening. But I suppose what you're saying is share the post, but don't expect the attention that's coming from it. It's like what you're bringing is so much more than that. And what are your thoughts around navigating that kind of technological space in which is so aligned with our lives now? We can't always escape it, but then trying not to be coming from a desperate place. Yeah.
So even before like put it out there, don't worry about it, do the work. When you do the work, like one thing about me that I'll die on this hill. I don't need you to like me. I don't need you to accept me. I don't need you to go, I like that, I don't like that. Like for whatever reason, Sharon, we're lucky we don't get any trolls. No trolls. Like our DMs are not full of trolls. We don't get trolls. They're probably coming at some point, but I don't get them. But if I did, of course I'm standing for something. And it only bothers us when we don't know who we are. It only bothers, like if I trigger you, it's because there's something in you that got triggered. I actually can't trigger you. You get triggered. And so it's an opportunity for us to look at, what am I seeking here? What am I seeking when I'm like putting this post up and wanting someone to like? I would journal. Why? Why did that bother me that person copied me? Why did they copy you? I mean, we're all copying everyone, right? But why did it bother you that only got 2 likes? Why did you need to get more? That's a beautiful opportunity, not to be embarrassed. We're all growing, we're all learning, but to go, wow, that really upset me. Why did that upset me? What did I make that mean about me? I made it mean that I'm not relevant. No one likes me. I never say good things. I'm not special. I'm boring, whatever. Okay, cool, interesting. That's the work. Not go, oh, cool. Anyway, next post. No, we missed an opportunity. So the work will knock at your door. It knocked at my door multiple times and I didn't listen. I had to break my back, lose my husband, go broke to finally wake up to go, okay, life is precious. What are you doing? And for some of us, we need a near-death experience. And it's so sad because that's what my work is about going, wake up to your reality and your potential now. But some of us actually need the cancer, the death, the drama to happen to actually go, oh, okay, Erika, I'm listening now. And they have to be in that void. And so I would go further and say, it's not about the post or like, it's actually like, get good with you. I'm so free. I'm so free. If you don't like me, I'm generous. You don't have to like me, whatever. You can think whatever you want about me because I know who I am. I know that I'm ever changing. But if you're not free, then you are trapped and you're performing. And that's exhausting and that takes your energy and that energy that you could be utilizing to manifest and think about who you want to be and start acting as her now and start seeing the synchronicities that happen, the green lights, the parking spots. Like, I'm not joking. Like, that stuff happens when you're in tune and aligned. But when you're in lack, you are chasing. Don't try to be magnetic. How about that? Just be. I got to try to be. Don't try. Less trying, more being.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to start wrapping up now. So I've got a couple more questions. When we think about confidence and becoming magnetic, what's one thing that you think women misunderstand about it that you'd love them to be more aware of?
Okay, confidence is going to feel horrific and it's built outside of your comfort zone. So if right now you feel like you're doing it wrong, right now you're getting critics, right now you're second guessing, right now you feel like, what the hell am I? Who am I? You're in massive self-doubt. High five. You're on your path to creating confidence. In regards to magnetism, you can't bypass yourself. You can't bypass your work. You can't chant mantras in the mirror that you don't believe. And you know you don't believe. Nobody else knows because you play it well, but you know when you go to sleep at night that you don't believe any of the bullshit you say. You can't put crystals in your bra and burn Palo Santo and act like that's going to give you this life that you desire. It's not. You actually have to get dirty, get nitty gritty, and go into the stuff that you are avoiding once you know what it is. That's the only way through. That's the only way for you to have the magnetism, the confidence, the best life. Everyone who's done that, those are the people that we look up to. They have done the hard yards and they're only where they are because they're brave. They're scared as hell. They don't know what they're doing, but they're giving it a crack and they're not worried about what you're going to think because like Brene Brown says, you're a critic that's inside of you're not in the arena, right? You're on the sidelines eating popcorn and I'm in the arena getting punched in the face with Sharon. So we actually don't care what you think.
I love that quote by her.
It's so good, but it's so true. And nobody wants to get punched in the face by life. Isn't it fun, Sharon? We love it. I'm like over here bleeding out. And people are like, you're killing it, Erika. And I'm like, okay, thanks. But really, that's what it takes. And no one wants to hear that, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lastly, if someone is just starting on their journey to becoming magnetic, what's the first thing they should focus on?
I'm like, get a therapist. Just kidding. What's the first thing they should focus on? I would say why they're not, why they think they're not. I want to become magnetic. Why aren't you right now?
What's holding you back?
Yeah, like why do you think you're not magnetic right now? And whatever comes, that's the story. Doesn't mean it's true, but that's your story. What story are you holding on to? Find your story. My story was I'm a stupid Spanish girl from the hood. Not true. I'm a Spanish girl. I'm from the hood, but I'm not stupid. And it took me 40 years. This March, I let that story go on the TEDx stage. 40 years. And I do this work a lot, Sharon. And that belief chained me until I had proof that I'm not a stupid Spanish girl because stupid people don't get TEDx's. Stupid people don't complete a TEDx. And so I wouldn't apply because I literally thought, I'm not smart. I'm not going to get it. So I want to ask you, listening to this, what's the story that you're allowing to define your life right now? And what if it wasn't true? And what if you didn't have that story? Who could you become? And what could you create? Magnetism and then some. I mean, anything you desire.
What an excellent point to end on. Thanks, Erika. And thank you for being such an open book today and sharing all your personal stories and your wealth of wisdom. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of She Defined. If you found this helpful or insightful, be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment or a review. It really helps us out. I've been your host, Sharon Green, and if you'd like to learn more about She Defined, you can visit our website at shedefined.com.au.